Less than a day after the divorce, my father-in-law threw a huge banquet at 60,000 yuan a table. But when my ex tried to pay the 3.6 million yuan bill with the card I'd given him, it came back frozen. Dad, we're officially separated. Really? You just got back from signing the papers? Yeah, she's already moved out. Good. We finally got that woman out of the house. I stood at the door listening to father and son, a cold smile tugging at my lips. Yes, I'd moved out. But this game was only getting started. My 9-year-old daughter quietly ran out of her room. Mom, are you really not coming back? I crouched down and gently stroked her hair. Mom will come see you all the time. Shen Jinshan snorted. You'd better keep your distance from now on. Don't confuse the child. I stood up and looked at the man I'd called Dad for 10 years. The last bit of warmth I had left for him vanished. The day before the divorce, I'd already figured out Shen Jinshan was planning something. He thought I had no idea, sneaking calls to relatives and friends whenever I wasn't home. Yep, tomorrow it's official. My son's finally free. That woman has dragged him down for years. Come to Shengyuan Hotel tomorrow night. We're going to celebrate properly. I stood outside the door and heard every word. 10 years of marriage was, to him, nothing but a burden on his son. After 10 years together, I was still just an outsider to them. That night, Shen Che came home and Shen Jinshan eagerly pulled his son into a room. After the divorce tomorrow, Dad's throwing you a freedom party at Shengyuan Hotel. I booked more than 500 tables. We're going big. Dad, isn't that a little much? What's wrong with it? Getting rid of that jinx is the best thing that's happened to you. I've never liked her. Now we can finally hold our heads high. I sat in the living room feeling completely numb. So 10 years of everything I'd done meant nothing to them. To them, me leaving was practically a national holiday. Right then, I made a decision. If they wanted to celebrate, I'd make sure they got a celebration they'd never forget. Late that night, I quietly got up, went to the study, and opened my laptop. I had managed every cent of the family finances and tripled the Shen family's assets. Now it was time to protect what was mine. My fingers flew across the keyboard, one move after another. If Shen Jinshan wanted a divorce party, if they wanted to blow money celebrating my exit, I'd let them. That afternoon, Shen Jinshan looked absolutely thrilled. Jinshan, what's the big occasion today? Oh, nothing much. My Shen Che got divorced today, finally dumped that dead weight. Divorced? Their neighbor, Auntie Wang, froze. And that's good news? Of course it's good news, Shen Jinshan practically shouted. The Jiang Yuning spent 10 years in our family accomplishing nothing. My son is young and successful. He deserves better. With that, he pulled out his phone and started messaging every relative and friend he knew. 6 tonight, Shengyuan Hotel. We're celebrating my son's freedom. Come share the good news. He escaped a miserable marriage today, so come raise a glass. Message after message went out, and Shen Jinshan couldn't stop grinning. Xu Yuzhen came home, saw her husband's huge smile, and beamed too. Well? Did you tell everyone? Shen Jinshan clapped his hands. Everyone! 500 tables, 2,500 guests. We're going to make sure the whole world knows the Shen family finally got rid of that jinx. What kind of menu did you book? 60,000 wen per table. If we're celebrating my son's fresh start, we're doing it in style. Let the relatives see the Shen family has money to burn. 60,000 a table. 60 tables came to 3.6 million yuan. Who cares? Jiang Yuning is gone. The money is ours now. What's 3.6 million? My son has plenty. By 6 that evening, friends and relatives had gotten the news and started calling Shen Che to make sure it was real. You really got divorced? This isn't some joke, right? It's real. We already got the divorce certificate. What about Jiang Yuning and the kid? Jiang Yuning moved out. Our granddaughter stays with us. She spent enough of our money over the years. Good riddance. Meanwhile, I was at a law firm signing the final document. Everything's been filed. The timing is exactly where we need it. I nodded and checked my watch. 1 hour to showtime. The ballroom at Shengyuan Hotel glittered under bright lights. 60 banquet tables stood in neat rows, each set at 60,000 wen, piled high with expensive dishes. Shen Jinshan stood at the entrance, grinning from ear to ear. Eat well, drink well, everybody. Guests streamed in, taking in the lavish setup and murmuring in amazement. Wow, you really went all out. 60,000 wen a table. My son's finally free. Of course we're going all out. Shenche stood beside Shen Jinshan, looking conflicted. Shenche, this is your big day. Stop looking so miserable. You're free now. From here on out, you can have any woman you want. Xu Yuzhen was glowing too, carrying a wine glass from table to table and explaining why everyone had been invited. Friends and family, we brought you here because we have amazing news. Our Shen Che officially got divorced today. After 10 years of being tied down, he's finally free again. The room immediately filled with whispers. Jiang Yuning held our Shen Che back for 10 years. Today we finally got rid of her. Isn't that worth celebrating? From now on, my son can find someone better. Come on, raise your glasses to his new life. Applause and toasts filled the ballroom. But behind that luxury feast, a much bigger show was quietly getting ready to start. After a few rounds of drinks, the party got louder and livelier. Shen Jinshan carried his glass from table to table, making toast after toast. Big brother, 60,000 a table? How much is all this costing? 3.6 million. Shen Jinshan didn't even try to hide it. My son's doing well. This is pocket change. A relative sucked in a breath. Jinshan, you guys must be loaded now. Shen Jinshan smiled smugly. Loaded? This is all from my son's hard work. Zhang Yuning was always whining about money and telling us to save. Now she's gone. We can spend however we want. An aunt at another table overheard. So how did you sign the divorce settlement? How was the property divided? The house is mine, the savings got split 50-50, and our granddaughter stays with us. Someone asked curiously, so how much did Zhang Yuning get? A few $100,000 maybe. Shen Jinshan waved it off. She spent plenty of our money over the years. She's lucky she got that much. The relatives started whispering. Only a few $100,000? Didn't Zhang Yuning work hard all these years? Wasn't she the one managing all the money? Shen Jinshan's face twitched, but the smile quickly came back. She handled the household stuff, sure, but my son built the family fortune. A woman can only see so far. Shenche's cousin walked over. I heard Zhang Yuning was really good with investments. She knew how to manage money. Our assets multiplied several times over. Then you guys accounted for all that in the divorce, right? I'm not totally sure about the details. The lawyers handled it. Shenche sounded less certain by the second. Something about that answer made Shen Jinshan uneasy, but the loud party around him quickly drowned the feeling out. He raised his glass. Today is a great day for the Shen family. Eat, drink, and nobody leaves sober. The ballroom erupted in cheers again as plate after plate of expensive food arrived. Time passed, and the banquet slowly neared its end. Then the hotel manager approached and politely said to Shenche, Sir, the banquet is almost over. Shenche nodded and followed him to the front desk. Shen Jinshan came too, eager to witness the grand finale in person. The manager handed over the bill. Today's total is 3.6 million yuan. Please take a look. Shenche glanced over the long list of charges, nodded, pulled a bank card from his wallet, and handed it over. Shen Jinshan stood beside him looking proud. A few relatives followed them over too. Jinshan, you've raised a good son. The cashier inserted the card, entered the PIN, and waited. A few seconds later, the terminal stopped. He looked at the screen, and his smile froze. He tried the transaction again, same result. Shenche noticed something was wrong. What happened? Is the machine broken? I'm sorry, sir, your card has been frozen. The cashier's words hit like a thunderbolt. The entire front desk area went dead silent. Shenche snapped back. That card worked fine yesterday. Sir, the system shows your account is under a court-ordered freeze. The smile vanished from Shen Jinshan's face. Frozen? Who froze it? Why? Why would they freeze it? The cashier flinched at the outburst and stepped back, then quickly pulled up the hotel's payment screen and pointed to the message. It says the card is tied to a divorce asset dispute and has been frozen by court order. The applicant is Ms. Zhang Yuning. The entire ballroom fell silent. Every head turned toward the hotel entrance. I walked to the front desk holding a thick stack of documents, placed them calmly on the marble counter, glanced at Shenche's paper-white face, then fixed my eyes on the trembling Shen Jinshan. Uncle Shen, long time no see. He lunged forward, shoved Shenche aside, and pointed straight at me as he started yelling. You did this! You're the one who secretly froze my son's card! Guests who had still been eating put down their chopsticks all at once. Shenche's face flashed red, then white. He stared me down. We're divorced. The marital property was already divided. Why are you freezing my card? What do you want from me? Do you seriously have to ruin my life? I gave a quiet laugh. Shenche, do you really think that divorce agreement you and your mother carefully put together, along with that very convenient property split, was the whole story? For 10 years, I was the only person managing your family's finances. I handled every bank account in your name, every fund, every property interest, every investment, and every expense. You and Shen Jinshan told everyone I was a freeloader, dead weight the Shen family couldn't get rid of. So today, I'm going to show everyone here the truth. Who actually supported this family for the past 10 years, and who single-handedly managed the Shen family's wealth. I gestured toward the lobby screen and connected my laptop. The next second, bank statements, investment returns, property gains, and equity dividends appeared for everyone to see. In 2017, I took over the Shen family finances. Starting assets, 3 million yuan. In 2019, I invested in 5 homes near top schools. Gain, 6.2 million. In 2021, I moved into funds and low-risk investments, averaging a 15% annual return and earning 3.8 million. In 2023, I made an angel investment in a friend's company and earned 5.2 million in equity dividends. By 2025, total assets came to 23.16 million yuan. Every deposit, expense, profit, date, source, and account is documented and traceable. Shenche stumbled backward into the counter with a dull thud. He stared at the numbers, his mind completely blank. His parents had convinced him I was useless and couldn't make real money. He believed everything the family had came from his hard work. But he never did the math. He earned barely over 200,000 yuan a year and saved almost nothing after expenses. The house, cars, and savings had all come from years of my investing and financial planning. Shen Jinshan collapsed to the floor. Impossible. Shenche swayed on his feet. It's fake. You forged all this to get revenge and frame us. My expression turned cold. I pulled out a second document stamped with an official red seal and slapped it onto the counter. This audit report was jointly issued by 3 top accounting firms in the city. Every page is signed by licensed accountants and stamped by the firms. It is legally valid and can withstand court review. And that's not all. I also have a complete chain of evidence showing you and Shen Jinshan deliberately moved marital assets. I picked up the remote and switched the big screen to the next file. First came full screenshots of the WeChat messages between Shen Jinshan and Shen Che. Shen Che, move fast. Transfer every cent you can out of the account. Don't leave her anything. That freeloader Jiang Yuning doesn't get a dime. 40 days before the divorce, the two of you secretly transferred 3.8 million yuan in marital assets. You also sold my personally funded gold collection, trying to swallow everything I owned. Shen Qi and Shen Jinshan couldn't stop shaking. For the sake of our 10 years together, and because Mumu is still young, I never wanted to take this all the way or humiliate anyone in public. You insisted on divorce, so I signed. You demanded a property split, and based on the false statements you gave me, I accepted only the minimum share the law said I should receive. And what did you do? You immediately threw a luxury divorce party at 60,000 yuan a table, 60 tables 3.6 million yuan, while telling everyone I was useless and celebrating kicking me out, all while hiding the fortune I'd built over 10 years. After 10 years of running this household and growing the money, was I really supposed to let you push me around, humiliate me in public, and walk away without even asking for what's fair? The relatives exploded. She multiplied the Shen family's money more than 7 times in 10 years. That's not a freeloader, that's a one-woman money machine. 60,000 a table? Talk about all flash and no cash. They did this to themselves. Shen Jinshan's legs gave out, and he dropped onto the cold floor. Shen Che bit his lip hard. In the middle of the stunned silence and chaos, a woman suddenly pushed through the guests. She pointed at me. Jiang Yuning, you dare come here and wreck everything. Keep this up and you'll regret it. It was Su Tiantian. She'd dressed head to toe in designer labels, planning to debut at the divorce party as Shen Che's new girlfriend, step into the Shen fortune, and instantly upgrade her life. But the whole thing had blown up in her face. Unable to sit still, she jumped in, clenched her fist, and swung at me. I easily stepped aside. She missed and nearly fell. Su Tiantian looked up at me. I didn't hide the sarcasm in my eyes. Perfect timing. I was just about to look for you. Su Tiantian froze. What do you want with me? Shen Che and I actually love each other. You're divorced now, so get out of here and stop making a scene. I gave a cold smile and pressed the remote. This time, the big screen displayed everything Su Tiantian had been hiding. Su Tiantian, real name Li Kuihua. No stable job, no legitimate income. The rich girl image is fake. No home, no car, no savings, just 5 million yuan in debt and a prior fraud record. Then came the part that stunned the room speechless. While pretending to date Shen Che seriously, Su Tiantian had been seeing 3 other men and spending Shen Che's money on herself. Next, a prepared audio recording played over the speakers. Su Tiantian's smug, mocking voice filled the ballroom. Shen Che is completely brainwashed by his dad. He really thinks I'm some rich heiress and he'll do anything I say. Once I get his money, I'm dumping him immediately. Shen Jinshan is even easier. I say a few sweet things, make him happy, and he treats me like his own daughter. He'd practically hand me every cent the Shen family has. The room erupted. Shen Che looked like he'd been struck by lightning, and Shen Jinshan nearly blacked out. I caught him for a second, then let go, and he dropped back onto the cold floor. 2 weeks before the divorce, you lied about a high-return construction investment, gained Shen Che's complete trust, and stole the 5 million yuan he'd secretly saved. I've organized the evidence on that money, your 5 million in debt, the credit card fraud and private loans, and submitted it all to the police and the court. The case has officially been opened. All the color drained from Su Tiantian's face. Her knees nearly buckled. She never imagined Jiang Yuning, the woman the Shen father and son had pushed around for 10 years, had quietly set such a complete trap. Every dirty secret she had was now out in the open. You set me up. I'll make you pay. She charged forward, trying to destroy the evidence, but hotel security pinned her down before she got close. I didn't invent anything. I just put every dirty thing you did behind closed doors right out in the open. When you were scamming Shen Che, flattering Shen Jinshan, and taking that 500,000 yuan, did you really think there'd never be consequences? Oh my god, she's a total scammer. Seriously, she doesn't even have a real place to live, and she's buried in debt. Shen Che must have lost his mind. He threw away a capable wife like Jiang Yuning for this. What an idiot. Well, now she could end up in jail. Serves them right. Let's see how they show their faces after this. The same relatives who had been sucking up to the Shen father and son moments earlier instantly switched sides. Su Tiantian, you lied to me! You actually lied to me! Su Tiantian snapped, shoved Shen Che away, and shouted, "Whoever said I really liked you? Your whole family is stupid." That sentence shredded the last scrap of dignity the Shen family had left. I pulled out a 4th document and handed it to the hotel manager. Manager, this is the court's asset freeze order. Every account and asset in Shenche's name is now under court freeze. Today's 3.6 million yuan banquet bill will be paid first from those frozen assets. I've already coordinated the paperwork, just follow the process. The hotel manager finally relaxed and nodded repeatedly. Of course, Ms. Zhang, I'll have accounting handle it immediately. With the bill settled, I turned back to Shenche and Shen Jinshan. Now let's settle everything else. First, you concealed major assets and deliberately transferred marital property. I have formally filed suit. Second, Shen Jinshan privately sold the gold collection I bought with my own money. It must be repaid in full. Third, you publicly spread lies about me. I'll pursue a defamation claim, including a public apology and compensation. I tilted my head slightly and turned my gaze towards Su Tiantian, who was already trembling beside them. Fourth, Su Tiantian, you hid your debts and criminal history and defrauded Shenche of 500,000 yuan. I've reported you to the police. Before I finished speaking, 2 uniformed officers walked through the hotel doors and headed straight through the crowd towards Su Tiantian. They showed their badges. We've verified evidence that you may be involved in fraud. Please cooperate with our investigation. Before Su Tiantian could react, handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Her face went blank with terror. Her knees gave out. She dropped to the floor and started begging. I was wrong! I was really wrong! Shenche, save me! Uncle Jinshan, help me! But Shenche and Shen Jinshan were in no position to save anyone. Shenche could barely stand without holding the counter. Shen Jinshan watched the police take Su Tiantian away, then looked at the stack of evidence in front of me. He couldn't take it anymore. He dropped to his knees on the cold marble floor. Jiang Yuning, I was wrong! Please, have mercy, spare the Shen family. He sobbed until he could barely breathe. 10 years between us are over. I've already done everything I could. Let the law decide what happens next. I pulled out my phone and made a call, my voice instantly softening. Mommy's done. I'm coming to get you now. My daughter Mumu's voice came through the phone. Don't forget my strawberry cake. That was the beginning of a new life for my daughter and me. Behind me, Shenche and Shen Jinshan were still collapsed on the cold floor. Shu Yuzhen pushed through the crowd and froze at the scene. Shen Jinshan had kept her in the dark. She only knew the divorce was supposedly good news and that they were throwing a party, not that her husband and son had done all of this. What is going on? Jiang Yuning made all our money? You two transferred assets? Shen Jinshan was crying so hard he could barely breathe. Shen Che stared blankly at the floor. He remembered when we'd first married 10 years earlier, how I'd taken care of him and handled every major and minor problem at home. He remembered me spending years studying investments and markets. I stayed up late making financial plans just to give our family a better life. But a few words from his father convinced him I was useless and couldn't earn real money. He ignored everything I did, complained constantly, and eventually helped his father throw me out. Only now did he understand he hadn't lost a useless wife. He'd lost a woman who truly loved him, protected him, and gave everything she had for him. We were wrong, Shenche choked out. We were all wrong. Shu Yuzhen let out a long sigh and collapsed into a chair, unable to say another word. She knew the family was finished. I didn't leave right away. I waited quietly at the side of the lobby for court officers to arrive. 10 minutes later, enforcement officers showed up at the hotel. They presented Shenche and Shen Jinshan with an asset liquidation notice and a summons for a new property division hearing. Their tone was calm and official. At the request of applicant Jiang Yuning, this court has seized or frozen all assets in your names, including real estate, vehicles, bank accounts, investments, and equity holdings. Starting today, a court-appointed accounting firm will conduct a full review of the marital estate. You are also suspected of intentionally transferring marital property. At trial, the court may legally reduce or eliminate your share of the marital assets. Failure to cooperate may result in further legal consequences. Each sentence landed like a hammer. Shen Jinshan stared at the court notice, finally lost all hope, and passed out. Shen Che caught his father in a panic and tried desperately to wake him, but Shen Jinshan kept his eyes shut and didn't respond. Guests quickly started leaving. Nobody wanted to get pulled into the Shen family's mess. Within minutes, the once-packed ballroom was empty, leaving only a wrecked banquet hall and the shattered Shen family. An ambulance soon arrived and took the unconscious Shen Jinshan to the hospital. After confirming the next steps with the court officers and making sure the paperwork was complete, I left Shengyuan Hotel. Warm sunlight fell across me. From now on, I would never have to tiptoe around Shen Jinshan or keep forcing some fake version of family harmony. I drove off to pick up Mumu, finally feeling light. For the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future. At the hospital, Shen Jinshan was revived, but the stress triggered severe hypertension and a stroke, leaving him with lasting paralysis on one side. Shen Che sat beside his unconscious father, thinking about the lawsuit and the coming asset review, and completely broke down. The scandal spread through his professional circle, and his company fired him. Mumu also grew more distant from him because of what he and her grandfather had done. Every time they met, Mumu cried for her mom. Su Tiantian was detained on suspicion of fraud and now faced the legal consequences. A few days later, the court heard my post-divorce property dispute with Shen Che. Every piece of evidence I submitted was accepted. The court ultimately voided the property division section of the original divorce agreement and ordered the marital assets divided again. Because Shen Che and Shen Jinshan had deliberately transferred and concealed assets, they were awarded only 15% of the marital estate. I received 85%. When the ruling was announced, Shen Che collapsed in court. Out of more than 27 million yuan in marital assets, the father and son ended up with only a little over 200,000. After compensation for the assets they'd sold and other damages and costs, they were left with only a few tens of thousands. The home near the top school, the luxury cars, and the designer goods they once enjoyed were all sold through court proceedings. What devastated Shen Che most was Mumu's custody. He had no stable job or permanent home. His father was seriously ill, and the family situation was a mess. At my request, the court transferred custody of Mumu to me. When the judge said custody is awarded to Jiang Yuning, Shen Che finally broke down, crying. After getting custody and my rightful share of the property, I didn't try to destroy him. I left Shen Che a small apartment so he and Shen Jinshan would still have somewhere to live. Every month, I let Mumu video call Shen Che so they could keep their father-daughter relationship. 6 months later, Mumu and I moved to a beautiful coastal city. I returned to finance and opened my own asset management studio. With 10 years of experience and a sharp eye for opportunities, the business took off. Mumu was happy at her new school. On weekends, I took Mumu to the beach to fly kites, giving my daughter all the love and time I could. Mumu never again asked, "Mom, are you gonna leave me too?" Every night before bed, she'd wrap her arms around my neck and say in her little voice, "I'm so happy when I'm with you." Every time I heard that, every hurt and hardship I'd gone through felt worth it. I was finally free from that suffocating marriage, living life on my own terms and giving my daughter a home filled with love and safety. Meanwhile, life for the Shen father and son had become worse than sewer rats. After the fiasco at the Shenyuan Grand Hotel, the Shen family hit rock bottom and never recovered. Xu Yuzhen had spent her whole life pampered. She couldn't handle this misery. Every day she had to wipe Shen Jinshan down, and one small mistake meant the bed was a complete mess. At first, Xu Yuzhen put up with it, but over time the resentment kept piling up. "It's all your fault, you stubborn old fool. You pushed our son to divorce, then threw that ridiculous celebration dinner. Look at us now! Marrying you was the worst luck of my life. And you, Shenche, you're a useless idiot. Since following you, I can't even count on a decent meal." Shenche's life was even worse. After getting fired, he applied everywhere, but the moment employers checked his background, they rejected him. Unable to find a real job, Shenche took odd gigs. Food delivery got him complaints and docked pay. Rideshare driving got him mocked by people who knew him. He was so embarrassed he wanted to disappear. He tried construction, but after one day he could barely stand. What he earned didn't even cover Shen Jinshan's medicine. Relatives and friends who once hovered around the Shen family calling them Mr. Shen and Brother Shen now avoided them like the plague. Forget lending money. They wouldn't even answer the phone. Once, with nowhere else to turn, Shenche went to the aunt he used to be closest to for a loan. She locked the door on him. "Shenche, stop coming here. Our family doesn't have money for you to burn through." Just when the three of them were completely desperate and barely getting by, a distant relative brought them news about me. "You haven't heard? Jiang Yuning is on another level now. She opened a major investment firm in Bingcheng and manages billions in assets." The words hit like thunder. Shen Jinshan had been lying in bed, half dead, but the second he heard that, his eyes lit up. "Go ask her for money, Mumu!" Xu Yuzhen instantly perked up too. She grabbed Shen Che and said, "Jiang Yuning is rich now. She can't just watch us starve to death, can she? We'll go find her. She has to give us money." A flicker of hope returned to Shen Che too. The next day, they bought 3 cheap train tickets to Bingcheng. Shen Jinshan was half paralyzed and the whole trip was a mess. The smell filled the carriage and the other passengers complained non-stop. Shen Che and Xu Yuzhen kept their heads down and didn't dare talk back. After a miserable ride, they finally reached Bingcheng. They took a cab straight from the station to Yuning Capital's headquarters in Bingcheng CBD. Outside the 58-story office tower, Shen Che pushed Shen Jinshan while Xu Yuzhen rushed in beside them, but security stopped them at the entrance. "Who are you here to see? Do you have an appointment?" "We're here for Jiang Yuning. She's my ex-wife." The guards understood immediately. Ms. Jiang had specifically told them that if anyone named Shen came looking for her, they were not to be let inside. The guard's face went cold. "Sorry, Ms. Jiang doesn't see visitors without an appointment. Please leave." "I need an appointment to see my own family. Move aside and stop blocking me." Shen Che tried to force his way in. 2 guards stepped in front of him. "Sir, please calm down or we'll have to call the proper authorities." While they were arguing at the entrance, my car pulled up. I had just finished a business meeting with Lu Zayan and stepped out when Shen Che spotted me. He shoved past security, rushed over and dropped to his knees right in front of me. "Yuning, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I shouldn't have listened to my dad. I shouldn't have divorced you. For Mumu's sake, just forgive me this once." Xu Yuzhen rushed over too, crying and putting on a pitiful act. "I'm apologizing to you. Be the bigger person and don't hold it against us." Even Shen Jinshan, sitting in his wheelchair, put on a helpless expression. Passers-by started stopping to watch and whisper. The three of them had counted on me caring about appearances. They knelt outside my office and played the victim, hoping I'd soften up. All they needed was for me to agree to give them money, but they hadn't expected me to look at Shen-Che on his knees without a trace of emotion, not even anger. He was no different from a stranger to me. "Shen-Che, we're divorced. You haven't forgotten the court ruling, have you?" Choking up, Shen-Che said, "Yuning, yell at me, hit me with every word you've got, just don't abandon us. We really can't survive like this." "How is that my problem? When you threw that celebration banquet at 60,000 a table and blew 3.6 million, did you ever think this day might come? I left you a place to live. You have hands and feet. Instead of working for a living, what are you doing outside my company asking me for money?" My words landed hard. The crowd around us instantly understood what was really going on. A grown man who can work but would rather squeeze money out of his ex-wife? That's pathetic. The comments poured into Shen-Che's ears. When Xu Yuzhen realized the pity act wasn't working, she snapped and pointed at me, shrieking, "Mumu is the Shen family's granddaughter. The money you make belongs partly to us too. You have to give us money today." I couldn't be bothered arguing anymore. I pulled out my phone and called the police. "Hello. I'd like to report harassment outside an office building in the CBD." After hanging up, my expression turned cold. "And one more thing, let me remind you. The court only allows one video call with Mumu each month. If you use her to pressure me again or bother her in any way, I'll ask the court to terminate your visitation rights permanently." That hit Shen-Che exactly where it hurt. Mumu was the only leverage he thought he still had. If he lost visitation too, he'd truly have nothing left. Just then, a police car pulled up with its siren on. 2 officers got out and walked over. "What's going on here?" I showed them the video of Shen-Che causing trouble downstairs, along with the previous court judgment. "These 3 are my ex-husband and former in-laws. We're divorced and the property settlement is complete. They're harassing me at my workplace, disrupting business, and verbally insulting me." After reviewing the evidence, the officers immediately understood. "All 3 of you come with us to the station." "We're not causing trouble. I came to see my ex-wife. She's already divorced you and doesn't want to see you. You still came here to block her at work. That may constitute public disturbance." "Let's go." The crowd cheered as the police took them away. "Serves him right. That's how you deal with a toxic ex." Ms. Jiang didn't cave at all. Good for her. I watched the police car leave without a trace of emotion, then turned and walked back into the building. "Ms. Jiang, that family has no shame. Should we increase security in case they come back?" I nodded. "Do it. And notify Mumu's kindergarten to tighten security. No one except me or someone I personally authorize is allowed to pick her up." I knew the Shen family too well. They never learned until consequences hit them. Getting taken away by police wasn't going to make them stop. Sure enough, the 3 of them were lectured at the station and released later that day. Instead of backing off, they got even more reckless. Once they realized they couldn't get money from me, they turned their attention to Mumu. 3 afternoons later, at kindergarten pickup, Shen-Che and Xu Yuzhen hid near the gate, hoping to take Mumu in the confusion. The moment Mumu walked out with her teacher, she spotted Shen-Che. "I don't want to see him!" "Teacher, I want my mom." The teacher immediately went on alert and pulled Mumu close. "Who are you?" Ms. Jiang said no one except her can pick Mumu up. "I'm her father. I have every right to take my daughter with me." 2 kindergarten security guards rushed over and blocked Shen-Che and Xu Yuzhen. While everyone was arguing, I arrived. The teacher had called me saying Shen-Che was trying to take Mumu from the kindergarten. I was furious. Mumu was the one line no one was allowed to cross. I hurried over, pulled Mumu into my arms, and gently comforted my sobbing daughter. Then I turned and stared coldly at Shen-Che. "Shen-Che, have you lost your mind? You came to a kindergarten to take my child by force? You terrified my daughter. Mumu is my daughter too. What's wrong with me taking her with me?" Shen-Che kept arguing. "You won't let me see my daughter and you won't give us money. Are you trying to drive me into the ground?" I actually laughed. "You spent every day bad-mouthing me in front of her and filling her head with negativity. During the divorce, you didn't even want to pay child support. And now you come to her kindergarten, scare her, and try to take her away? I don't want to go with you. You're a bad person." Her words cut straight through Shen-Che. But by then, desperation had taken over, and he still tried to move toward her. I stepped back with Mumu in my arms and told security, "Keep them back. I've already called the police." The police arrived quickly. I gave them the evidence from his earlier harassment at my office, plus the video from the kindergarten and the teacher statement. I formally asked the police to pursue the matter. At the same time, my lawyer filed with the court to permanently revoke Shen-Che and Shen Jinshan's visitation rights to Mumu. After reviewing the case, the court found Shen-Che's behavior had seriously affected the child's well-being. With no stable job or residence, he and Shen Jinshan permanently lost visitation rights. The moment Shen-Che got the ruling, he broke down. His last emotional connection, and the only leverage he thought he had over me, was gone. Because of repeated disturbances, Shen-Che was also placed in administrative detention for 15 days. Xu Yuzhen was formally reprimanded for helping cause the scene. When Shen-Che was released, the 3 of them could no longer stay in Bingcheng. With nowhere else to go, they bought cheap train tickets and slunk back to their old city. That 1,000-mile trip got them nothing. Instead, they lost visitation rights for good. With a record of causing public disturbances, Shen Che found it even harder to get work. Not even delivery or rideshare platforms wanted him. All he could do was take day labor at construction sites, hauling cement and steel. He worked more than 10 hours a day for barely enough money to survive, nowhere near enough for Shen Jinshan's medicine. Meanwhile, Su Tiantian, the woman who had scammed Shen Che out of 500,000, refused to behave after going to prison. All she thought about was getting her sentence reduced. She blamed both Shen Che and me for landing her in prison. Desperate for early release, she came up with a crooked plan: earn credit by reporting other people. She figured that if she exposed someone else's crimes, she could get time off and leave prison sooner. The problem was, she didn't actually know any real criminal information, so she started making things up. First, she told prison staff that Shen Che had helped her commit fraud. Police immediately opened an investigation. That dragged Shen Che, already buried in problems, into a fraud case. Investigators eventually proved he had been a victim too and hadn't participated, but the rumor spread anyway. People already avoided hiring him. After that, they wanted nothing to do with him. Even the construction foreman fired him and refused to let him keep doing day labor. Shen Che lost his last source of income, and there was barely food at home. But Su Tiantian still wouldn't stop. When framing Shen Che got her nowhere, she turned on me. She reported that all my assets were illegally obtained. The prison passed the tip to police and financial regulators in Bingcheng. Regulators launched an investigation right away. The result? Every part of my business was fully legal and compliant. When I heard about it, I didn't panic. I had my lawyer sue Su Tiantian for malicious false accusations. In the end, she was sentenced to 14 years in prison. When the ruling came down, Su Tiantian completely fell apart and sobbed in court. By the time Shen Che heard the news, he was sheltering from the rain under a bridge. He slapped himself over and over. With nowhere left to turn, he let someone talk him into taking a high-interest underground loan. The man who pushed him into it was Lao Zhou, a rideshare driver he'd once worked with. Lao Zhou said he knew someone who lent cash privately. All Shen Che needed was an ID. At first, he refused. He knew those loans were dangerous and almost impossible to escape once you got involved. But Shen Jinshan lay in bed every day crying in pain and needing medicine, while his mother argued with him constantly. Shen Che was desperate, so he finally agreed to borrow some money. Lao Zhou took him to a lender everyone called Brother Hu. Once Hu learned that I was now worth hundreds of millions, he immediately saw an opportunity and handed Shen Che 200,000. Shen Che's hands shook as he held the cash. He thought he finally had enough money to turn his life around. What he didn't know was that he had walked straight into Hu's trap. Hu never expected him to repay the loan. He was betting on my wealth, assuming I'd pay once Shen Che defaulted. After getting the money, Shen Che bought medicine for his father and paid the rent. Then he put everything left into a so-called cross-border e-commerce project Lao Zhou swore was guaranteed profit. He was told the money would double in 3 months. Shen Che didn't hesitate. He poured more than 100,000 into it. Less than a month later, the project collapsed. The so-called e-commerce business was really a pyramid-style scam. When Shen Che found out, he fainted. By the time he recovered, the 3-month deadline had arrived. Hu showed up with his men. With compounding interest, the original 200,000 had somehow become 400,000. Shen Che, pay up! 400,000. If you don't pay, you're going to regret it. Brother Hu, please give me a few more days. I don't have the money. Hu sneered. No money? Then put up the apartment. Otherwise, this is going to get ugly. That relocation apartment was the home I'd once left for the Shen father and son. It was now the only roof they had. The moment Xu Yuzhen heard this, she exploded. She rushed out yelling, "Don't you dare! That apartment isn't his to give away. You can't touch it!" You owe money, you put up property. That's how debts work. Hu waved his hand, and several men rushed inside and smashed the place. Shen Jinshan lay trembling in bed, panicked by the chaos, and soon passed out again. The apartment was left in ruins. Hu dropped one last warning. You've got 3 days. Pay the debt or hand over the apartment. Otherwise, there'll be consequences. Then he left with his men. Xu Yuzhen stared at the wrecked apartment. The unconscious Shen Jinshan and Shen Che collapsed on the floor. She finally lost all hope. That same day, she packed her things, left behind divorce papers, and ran back to her parents' home overnight, refusing to deal with the father and son anymore. The next morning, Shen Che woke up and found the divorce papers. It was just him and his unconscious father. He broke down completely. His mother was gone, the money was gone, he owed 400,000, and now they might lose the apartment too. With nowhere else to turn, he tried calling me again, but I'd blocked his number long ago. 3 days passed quickly. Hu came back with a contract and tried to force Shen Che to sign over the apartment. Shen Che refused. Several men pinned him down and beat him badly, just as they were trying to force his signature. A neighbor called the police. Officers arrived and took Hu and his group away. But Shen Che's debt problems didn't magically disappear. Bruised and injured, he lay on the cold floor staring at his unconscious father and felt completely hopeless. He called an ambulance and took Shen Jinshan to the hospital. The doctor told him they couldn't save him. With nowhere left to go, Shen-che quietly left the city and took labor jobs elsewhere. One day, at a small shop near a construction site, he saw me on TV. On screen, I looked calm and confident. The host introduced me by saying my company now managed more than 10 billion in assets. At the end of the interview, I smiled and said, "The thing I'm proudest of in my life is having an amazing daughter." Then the camera cut to Mumu. She was wearing a pretty princess dress, laughing as she ran along the beach. Shen-che watched the screen, tears pouring down his face. After the Shen family finally collapsed, my life became peaceful. I also met a calm, dependable partner, Lu Zeon. He respected me, never dug into my past, and focused on protecting the life we had now. Lu Zeon built blocks and read stories with Mumu and brought me hot meals when I worked late. Mumu adored Uncle Lu and often said in her little voice, "Uncle Lu is warm like the sun." Looking at my daughter's bright smile and the reliable man beside me, I finally let go of the pain from the past. After Hu was released from detention, he kept looking for Shen-che. Within 6 months, he found out where Shen-che was hiding. One evening, just as Shen-che finished work, 5 large men blocked the entrance to the workers' dorm. Hu, cigarette in his mouth, kicked away the bun in Shen-che's hand. That 400,000 debt? With interest, it's 800,000 now. You pay it all today. Shen-che's legs went weak. He dropped to his knees and begged, "Brother Hu, I really don't have the money, please give me more time." Hu sneered. "Hit him! Keep going until he agrees to pay!" They beat Shen-che while the other workers watched from a distance. No one dared step in. Everyone knew these lenders were trouble. Afterward, Shen-che was covered in injuries. Hu crouched down and grabbed his chin. "Your ex-wife Zhang Yuning is worth billions. Go beg her. Pocket change to her would clear your debt." Shen-che felt dead inside. He knew I'd already done more than enough for him. Forget 800,000. Even $1 was more than I'd ever give him again. But he had no choice. Hu shoved him into a van and drove him back to the coastal city where I lived. Hu warned him, "If you can't get the money today, things are going to get very bad. And maybe we'll go to your daughter's kindergarten and make Zhang Yuning pay attention." That crossed Shen-che's final line. Whatever happened to him, he couldn't let Mumu get hurt. He struggled out of the van, then staggered to my office building, only to be stopped by security. I'd already ordered that no one connected to Shen-che was allowed near the building. Shen-che dropped to his knees and kept bowing toward the tower until his forehead bled. In a hoarse voice, he cried, "I don't want to die, and I don't want Mumu dragged into this." Passers-by gathered and filmed him. Isn't that the toxic ex-husband? He's here again? No shame at all. He borrowed from loan sharks and now wants his ex-wife to clean up the mess. The comments cut into Shen-che. Watching the scene on the security feed from my office, I stayed completely calm and sent my assistant downstairs with a message. "We've been divorced for a long time. His debts have nothing to do with me. If anyone threatens me with Mumu again, I'll have the police deal with both him and the lending gang." My assistant delivered the message. Hu heard it and kicked Shen-che. "You can't even handle one woman?" The crowd kept growing, and someone had already called the police. Hu didn't dare stay. He cursed, grabbed his men, and fled. Shen-che was left kneeling there alone, humiliated. Police arrived quickly, recognized him, and detained him again for causing a disturbance and harassment. This time, Shen-che was held for 15 days. Years earlier, after abandoning Shen-che and Shen Jinshan and running back to her family, Xu Yuzhen had focused on finding a wealthy man to remarry. She dressed herself up and eventually married a widowed small business owner. She thought she was finally returning to a comfortable life and acted obedient around her new husband. But her lazy, sharp-tongued nature soon came out. She complained that her new husband was old and secretly hid money. Less than a year later, he discovered she had been moving assets behind his back. He kicked her out and divorced her. Even her own brother and sister-in-law were too embarrassed to take her in. She ended up homeless, collecting scraps and begging for food. She slept under bridges and sometimes saw news about me living happily with Mumu, which drove her crazy with envy. She tried asking me for money too, but security chased her away whenever she approached my office or Mumu's kindergarten. She couldn't even get close enough to see me. The former mother-in-law, who once looked down on me and ordered me around, had become a disheveled beggar everyone avoided. When old acquaintances recognized her on the street, she got nothing but ridicule and cold looks. All her old arrogance was gone. After Shen Jinshan died in the hospital, Shen-chi was drifting from place to place and Xu Yuzhen refused to get involved. No one even arranged a funeral. The hospital couldn't reach family and handled his remains as unclaimed. His ashes were placed in a public cemetery without even a headstone. The once proud Shen family became the biggest joke in town, and before long, nobody wanted to mention them at all. Su Tiantian was still causing trouble in prison. She couldn't accept spending years behind bars and kept looking for loopholes and connections to reduce her sentence. When she heard my business was growing, she became malicious again. She teamed up with other inmates and fabricated evidence accusing me of illegal fundraising, tax evasion, and money laundering, then filed real-name reports with prison officials and financial regulators. She thought this would finally drag me down and earn her a shorter sentence. What she didn't know was that every account at Yuning Capital was clean, every fund movement was monitored, and our tax, legal, and risk systems were airtight. There was nothing to find. Financial regulators opened a full investigation anyway. After a month of deep review, the conclusion was clear. Yuning Capital was fully compliant, every allegation had been fabricated, and the evidence of Sutiantian's malicious false reporting was overwhelming. The court ruled Sutiantian was guilty of making malicious false accusations. 10 years were added to her existing sentence, for a combined 24 years in prison. When she heard the judgment, Sutiantian completely lost it, sobbing and struggling in court until the bailiffs restrained her. She finally understood that every cruel scheme she'd launched had come back on her. She would spend the best years of her life behind bars with no way out. In prison, other inmates pushed her around. She got the hardest jobs, the worst meals, and spent every day trapped in fear and regret. While everyone in the Shen family was paying for their choices, I had my lawyer buy the old Shen family house for 10 times the market price. That house held 10 years of humiliation from my marriage. Every corner carried memories of pain and pressure. Once I bought it, I ordered the whole place demolished. Excavators rolled in. With one thunderous crash, the house that held all those ugly memories came down. Neighbors gathered to watch. Should have been torn down years ago. After everything the Shen family did, that place had bad energy anyway. On demolition day, I stood at a distance with Mumu. She held my arm and asked curiously, "Mom, what are they going to build here?" I smiled and stroked her hair. Mumu's Love Garden, a place where kids can grow flowers, play games, read, and draw. In just 3 months, I invested $80 million and built a high-end children's charity center named after Mumu on the old Shen property. On opening day, local officials attended the ribbon cutting. Media outlets rushed to cover it, and the story spread across the city and even trended online. Everyone knew. The arrogant Shen family home had been torn down by the ex-wife and turned into a public benefit space for children, while the Shen family didn't even have the standing to come back and look. From then on, the old Shen family house was gone. In its place stood Mumu's Love Garden. Relatives who had mocked me at the celebration banquet and called me a useless freeloader heard I'd become a billionaire businesswoman. They came to Bingcheng with expensive gifts and cried outside my office. My aunt, cousins, and in-laws all knelt at the entrance begging for forgiveness and asking me to lend them money. I watched coldly from behind the floor-to-ceiling windows, had security remove them, and ordered every local company I invested in or partnered with never to hire those relatives, and never to do business with them. After his detention ended, Shen Che was driven out of the coastal city and went back to drifting from place to place. Years of hard labor, beatings, and stress had wrecked his health. He developed severe lung problems, stomach issues, and arthritis. Walking became difficult. Even off-the-books construction crews wouldn't hire him, so he survived by begging on the street. Shencha shivered in the corner of a subway station, coughing constantly, sometimes seeing blood in his phlegm. He knew he was nearing the end. Near death, he used the last of his strength to pull out an old basic phone and try calling me, but I'd blocked his number long ago. The call would never go through. He tried to message Mumu, but his fingers shook too much to type. He remembered little Mumu hugging his leg and calling him Dad, everything I'd done for the family, and all the ways the Shen family had humiliated and schemed against me. Tears slipped down his face. "Yuning, I'm sorry. Mumu, Dad is sorry. I was wrong. I was really wrong." The next morning, a sanitation worker found Shen Che in the subway station. He was curled up in a corner, no longer breathing, with dried tears still on his face. His body was ultimately treated as unclaimed. The once arrogant Shen heir, spoiled by his father, ended up dying alone in a forgotten corner. I learned about Shen Che's death from the police a week later. I felt no shock, no anger, just quietly nodded. Lu Zeyan held my hand. "It's over. No one will bother us anymore." I looked at Mumu drawing beside us, smiling so brightly her eyes curved into crescents. I nodded gently, completely calm inside. Yes, it was finally over. On a sunny weekend, Lu Zeyan proposed to me by the sea. No crowd, no giant production, just him, me, and Mumu. He got down on one knee. "Yuning, I want to be your husband, and Mumu's dad. I want to spend my life protecting both of you. Will you marry me?" Mumu tugged my hand beside him. "Mom, say yes to Uncle Lu. I want Uncle Lu to be my dad." I looked at the sincerity in Lu Zeyan's eyes, then at my daughter's hopeful face. Smiling through tears, I nodded. Yes. We kept the wedding low-key, inviting only close friends, family, and a few trusted business partners. It wasn't extravagant, but it was warm and happy. Married life was sweet and steady. Lu Zeyan never asked me to give up my career or stay home. He supported my work even more and willingly shared the responsibilities at home. He read and played with Mumu. Surrounded by love, she grew up healthy and happy, a gentle, brave little girl. My company continued growing steadily, too. I stopped working myself into the ground and gave more time to my family. I had a career I loved, a partner who loved me, and my precious daughter beside me. I had nothing left to regret. Sometimes I remembered the pain and bitterness of that 10-year marriage, but it had long faded into the past. Those years made me stronger, clearer, and better at protecting the people in life that truly mattered. The sun was warm and the breeze was soft. I walked along the beach holding Mumu's hand while Lu Zeyan followed behind us with a gentle smile. Waves rolled onto the shore, and Mumu's laughter rang out. This was the ending I deserved.